Hi, I'm Jack Canfield, author of The Success Principles and co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And I'm here today at the Author Success Retreat that I do with Steve Harrison. And I want to introduce you to one of our attendees, Randall Stieber. Now, Randall spent 25 years capturing the essence of family stories through custom portraits. Now he brings his passion for storytelling to the written word, bridging generations through personal memoirs and guided journals. And Randall shares insights into his personal journey of growing up before the digital age, capturing the essence of life, love, and adventure. And his journals help you connect with your parents and your grandparents through their life stories. So Randall, how does your work with journals and journaling help others who use them? What is your intention for them?
Yeah, I created my journals and wrote my memoir really to bring the generations together, sort of like my family portraits that I did. I've always felt there's a disconnect between generations and between men and women, and my journals and my memoir help to bridge that gap with stories of our lives and the stories that shape us. When I showed my journals, which I made for other families to share their stories, my adult daughter, of course, she asked when I was going to share my stories and tell my stories about uh, my younger days. Well, that led me to write my memoir, Chasing What I Lost. It's about growing up in the 70s and 80s, back before GPS and cell phones, when FaceTime meant actually talking face to face, not screen time on your telephone. It started out as really a bunch of wild, adrenaline-filled stories of my youth that were kind of fun to remember. But then it became a little more reflective about choices and family and the search for some sort of connection when I was young, in a world where I think men are often taught to stay quiet about what's really going on in their heads and in their mind and in their heart. Um, I've had women tell me that they found it enlightening to finally hear a male voice being so honest about that coming of age time. So that's kind of why I decided to go ahead and publish it and see if I can crack open some of that silence while keeping some of the humor and testosterone-filled parts as well.
Yeah, I was telling you earlier that I just love your writing, especially that you're writing your own stories about how they reminded me of experiences I had as a child, as a man, young boy, etc. And how I was really grateful. It just brought back sweet memories. Some a little challenging when Bobby Mossman beat me up, whatever. But the reality was that it was a warm feeling, like kind of going to a reunion and talking to your old friends and reminding me of that. So I think for those of us who are older, I think it's a good book because it's like watching a movie about that period of your life, and it reminds you of what it was like to be a kid and later as you get older with your sister and so forth. And I think also let's talk about your journals. You have these journals that you publish for dads and moms to tell their stories so that their kids can know more about them. Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, so after my mom and dad passed, I realized much of their life stories had just kind of disappeared, just vanished with them. The journals really grew out of the question of how can I make it easier for families to share their stories? A lot of us intend, like me, to ask our parents and grandparents about their lives, but the years slip away and those stories get lost. I created these journals, mom, dad, grandparents, even aunts and uncles, to make it easier to capture their stories. Um, they guide you through with prompts about childhood and love and challenges, even some of the funny details of stories that families love to cherish later. Um, I found out some families like to fill these out together, which is really fun. But when you fill out these journals, when your dad or your mom fill out these journals, it's not just words on paper, it's really their life story and their legacy, something that can be passed down to children and grandchildren and create quite a legacy for them.
I want to recommend people do that because I remember when you have your first kid, I don't know if you do it for all of them, if you have more than one, but we always got this baby book, baby's first step, his first word, what he weighed or she weighed, all that stuff. And we capture that. And then, but we don't capture who we are for them to be able to look at that. And also, I think you can also use those prompts to interview your parents. You can say, "Hey, mom, I got these great questions here. I'd like to sit down with you and ask them." So it kind of can be a prompt for a conversation as well as for them to capture the information in writing to be able to give to them.
Oh, yeah. I wish I would have done this with my mother when she was in the nursing home. I visited her frequently, and frankly, I was always trying to think of something to do with her. And one of the things she liked to do was reminisce about her life. So I wish I had this journal and I in my hands at that time, and I could have asked her these questions. We both would have enjoyed filling this out together, and I would have it now to read and pass down to my kids.
Yeah. And simple things like, what did you like to do as a kid? What was your greatest fear? What was your favorite subject in school? I mean, I can't even answer that for my mom. So it's like, I'm curious and I'm wondering what it was. Anyway, thank you for doing the work you're doing. I think it's really cool. And thank you for joining me in this brief little interview we're doing. And I also want those of you who are watching to know that you can get more information about Randall, his books and his work and any future work he's doing by contacting him through the information you see on the screen.